Okay, the clerk tells me we've really started now. Good evening, everyone, and I'm calling the meeting of the Town of Lincoln Council of June 1st, 2026 to order. And I will ask if you're able to please stand for the national anthem.
Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
I would like to begin this evening by reading a safety notice. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate council chambers to the nearest exit through the chamber doors and obey all instructions given. And if assistance is required, please see Madam Clerk. Once you have evacuated the building, please gather in the front parking lot outside of Town Hall. Also, please ensure you place your cell phone on silent or turn it off. And lastly, the Town of Lincoln Council meetings are posted on our YouTube channel. Closed captioning is available on all our videos by selecting the closed captioning button on the bottom right of the video. The Town of Lincoln, being part of the Niagara region, is situated on treaty land. And this land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Attawandaronk, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara and the Town of Lincoln stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. I would also like to note that today is the first day of National Indigenous History Month, which is observed annually in Canada during the month of June, providing opportunity for recognizing, learning about, and honoring the rich history, heritage, resilience, and the diversity of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, whose presence continues to impact this country. Members of council are in attendance this evening, with regrets from Councillor Mikulik. And we have staff in attendance this evening. We also have recipients of the Mayor's Medal in attendance, as well as representatives from the Niagara region and Regional Councillor Foster. Do members of council have any amendments to the order of the agenda? There being none, are there any declarations of interest? Do members have any announcements? If so, you have a limit of 3. Councillor Brunet? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On Friday, May the 22nd, I attended the groundbreaking for the new Niagara Peninsula Energy Spring Creek Transformer Station here in Lincoln. The transformer station will enable Niagara Peninsula Energy to continue providing reliable electricity to thousands of homes and businesses in the town of Lincoln and the township of West Lincoln. This is a $35 to $40 million investment to our local economy, workforce, and the future of Niagara Peninsula, and this will provide future-ready energy, allowing for increased electrical capacity and providing resiliency to the power distribution system for the next generation of growth for the communities that NPI serves. Construction has started, and the MTS is anticipated to come online in 2028. A Canadian-based company, Black & McDonald, has been selected as the constructor for this transformer station. CEO Kirkopoulos was the MC for the day and did a great job. Thanks to our communications team from the town, as well as NPI staff who arranged a shuttle from Lions Park to the site at Frost Road and Spring Creek Road. The four mayors of the four shareholders, Mayor Easton, Mayor Ganon, Mayor Junkin, and Mayor Diodati, all attended the groundbreaking, along with many municipal councilors and the Associate Minister of Energy, Sam Oosterhoff, as well as many representatives from the Niagara Peninsula Energy Corporation. As a board member, I am very pleased with the commitment that NPI continues to make to reinvest in the communities we serve and build the infrastructure required for a sustainable, reliable energy future. Secondly, Madam Mayor, on Saturday, May 23rd, I attended the Touch a Truck event at the Fleming Center. Due to the rain, it was moved inside. Thanks to all our Public Works team, the volunteer fire department who braved the elements, members of the Beamsville Lions Club who were there with their fry truck and providing food for anyone interested, and members of the Active Transportation and Age-Friendly Committee who had a booth inside. Unfortunately, because of the rain, their slow roll was canceled. But despite the rain, there were a lot of young families who came out to see the equipment and get their pictures taken on our backhoes, our dump trucks, our Zambonis, and with members of the Niagara Regional Police. And finally, Madam Mayor, I had the opportunity on Thursday, May 28th, to attend the Heritage Places in Our Town, a celebration. The event was held at the new community hub in the gymnasium wing of the old BDSS. We had approximately 50 people who attended, and I will let my colleague, Councillor Timmers, who also is on the Heritage Committee with me, report on more details that took place that evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to share some information about a conference that I attended on May 6th, 7th, and 8th. You were also there, Madam Mayor, at the Hamilton Convention Centre, and that's the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative Conference. You've all heard about that in the past from me and, of course, Madam Mayor, continually, who has been an integral part of establishing this committee and growing it over the last 9 years or so. What I learned is that it went from a group of about 70 people in 2018 up to as many as 500 members recently, and quite a few member municipalities around the Great Lakes, from Ohio to Indiana, Michigan, and Buffalo recently joined as well. You just think about all the municipalities around the Great Lakes and all the work that can be done if everybody works together and if everybody's involved. The idea is to think big and think really big when it comes to concurrently protecting the incredible resource that we have in fresh water. And we're so incredibly fortunate to have all this fresh water around us. And we can all, I think, recall the days when there wasn't a lot of respect for fresh water and not much in terms of environmental protection. Industry has sprung up around the waters over the decades, and there was a lot of, let's say, disrespect when it comes to protecting one of our most precious resources. As our Indigenous friends say, we are nothing without water, and that's absolutely true. And if that's absolutely true, then we should be treating it like the blue gold that it is. And that's a very important part of what the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative is focused on, and that takes a very multi-pronged approach. And it takes many groups across many sectors and industries to work together to not only protect the water, but also concurrently use the whole corridor to enhance the quality of life of everyone in the area and beyond. Clean up the lakes, keep them clean, and work together. The first day there was a bit of a Dragon's Den event put on by Aqua Action, And several entrepreneurs went up and spoke about the water-related systems they've come up with, all the way from using a sawdust filter to clean PFAs and microplastics out of the water, to a system that breaks down the carbon band in biosolids and releases the PFAs and microplastics, to a system that pulls the all the way to a system that pulls the fertilizer residue from the lakes and makes fertilizer from it to be reused. I'm looking forward to being involved more with this in the future and finding ways that we can enhance cross-border relationships and working together to enhance the environment and the economy at the same time. And then just a second item, I attended the Lamplighter play at the beautiful theater at the West Niagara High School on May the 10th. Congratulations to the Rotary Club and extended volunteers for doing an outstanding, stellar job. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And also, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to come to that conference. I also want to recognize Councillor Murray and her interest that she's had in this particular, the work of this particular organization. Being a binational, quite a different experience, and I think that you saw that as well as Councillor Brunet has attended one or two meetings with me as well. I find that it's one of those organizations, because of its binational nature, you need to be there in order to see what the governance is really all about and the dynamics of it. So I think that's really great to have 3 out of 9 members of our council that have taken advantage of getting to know more about this. Thank you very much. Councillor Timmers?
Thank you, Mary Ston. I too attended many events recently, and my colleague Councillor Brunet has already mentioned a few of them, so I won't repeat them. On May 28th, we had quite an exciting event in Vineland with the Vineland Home Hardware celebrating 75 years in our community. And that it was just an absolutely amazing event, and Mary Ston, you were there, and Councillor Pachariva, Councillor Reimer, and myself, and some staff. And it was just such a great celebration. You know, this family, generations of us have gone to that store, and myself as a child actually went to that store. So it was really exciting and really a pleasure to be invited to that celebration. And just one other thing I would like to just quickly announce is that this Wednesday is the senior showcase at the Fleming Center, and it's been growing every year, getting better and better. And there's all kinds of programming and services and vendors, and Tim Hortons is always there with coffee and Timbits, so they're very popular in their tent. And I'll be there on Wednesday, and hopefully people can come out and check it out. And the Age-Friendly Active Community Advisory Committee will be there as well with a booth. So those are my announcements. Thank you very much, Mary Easton.
Thank you, Councillor. And now, Councillor Pachariva.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. On May 15th, I attended the announcement from the federal government of the $33.7 million we received from the Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund, along with yourself and Councillor Reimer, Councillor Brunet, Councillor Timmers, and Councillor Rincham was there, which is a phased approach to address the shoreline flooding and erosion. The multi-phase initiative, spanning close to a decade, includes strategic road relocations, shoreline protection works, and critical infrastructure upgrades. On May the 26th, played with Councillor Foster in the Chamber Golf Tournament. We had a lot of fun. Shout out to Amelia and the gang at the Chamber because they put on a very great event. May 27th in the morning, our Active Communities and Age-Friendly Committee held their bike rodeo at St. Ed's School. We had 39 children attend that with the help of Heart Niagara, and anyone who has children in grade 4 or 5, I would go to your parent council and ask why you didn't have the bike rodeo. Because there's no cost to any of the kids. This is something our committee puts on. And you know what? Like, that was one of the highlights. Maybe I'm old school when I was a kid, but the bike rodeo, right? Half a day off school. You learned you learned road safety though. It was the Heart Niagara guys and gals are dynamite. They show you how to properly wear a helmet, which I never do, and make sure about your tires are inflated, and you do a little, ride through a straight line and stuff like that. So, I mean, and for those that say, hey, I don't have a bike or I don't have the means, well, it's an inclusive event. So they bring bikes, they bring scooters, so there's no excuse why your class shouldn't be doing it. Oh, and then quickly, I'm gonna do a fourth, please, your worship. Okay, little latitude. The tour we had of the daycare at BDSS. I mean, that was just incredible. Councilor Reimer was in amazement as we walked through that wing, and there was no rot on any of the upper floors. It was kind of like old school week, especially we're in Tom Clark's room, and we had a chat with him at the home hardware event. That it was neat, and to think that we were going to take all that down, and now to see the adaptive reuse of that facility, it's incredible. And that was one of the things too that, I heard last election. So we're moving to Lincoln. There's no daycare spaces. So it's going to triple. It's going to go to over 110 spaces. And the good thing was they're going to be doing 3 months to a year, something they hadn't done before. Infants, right? So terrific. So if you want to get on the list, I would call them right away. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to go back because I think it's important to make connections. Thank you all for your stories. I think it's very important that the public know that you are all out and engaging in these activities. They're very important to our community. The $35 million would have had the direct and indirect support of the NPCA. They would have also had also internal connections and commentary with the Great Lakes cities. So it's government relations is a very important element of what we do. Thank you all very much. Item number 8 on the agenda is proclamations, and we have 4 proclamations this evening. The first being to recognize June 13th as Mountain View Lemonade Day for Family and Children's Services Niagara. When I say Mountain View, I mean Mountain View Homes. I'll now read the proclamation. Whereas Family and Children's Services Niagara has been dedicated to protecting and supporting children and improving the lives of vulnerable children, youth, and families across the Niagara Peninsula since 1898. Whereas Mountain View Building Group and other generous sponsors are supporting FACTS Niagara Foundation in these efforts by encouraging children and families to give back to their community by registering online and setting up lemonade stands across the town of Lincoln and the Niagara region on Saturday, June 13th, 2026. Whereas Mountain View Building Group and other great community sponsors have generously provided 100 Lemonade Day kits so every family and child have the resources needed to successfully participate, and so that all the funds raised by children go directly to sending vulnerable children, supported by FACTS Niagara, to summer camps. Whereas by instilling the values of community, generosity, and goodwill in the next generation, Mountain View Building Group and other generous sponsors are helping build a brighter future for Niagara. Whereas the town of Lincoln commends the hundreds of young citrus-squeezing children for their philanthropy and hard work, generosity, goodwill, and for making our community a much better place to live. Whereas the Council of the Town of Lincoln hereby encourages children of the Town of Lincoln to participate in the annual Mountain View Lemonade Day for FACTS Niagara and encourages all citizens of the Town of Lincoln to support these children in their efforts by generously donating in person or online to the Mountain View Lemonade Day stands and help give as many children from the Niagara region to experience summer camp in 2026. Now therefore, I, Sandra Easton, Mayor of the Town of Lincoln, do hereby declare June 13th, 2026 as Mountain View Lemonade Day for FACTS Niagara. And Madam Clerk will ensure that the proclamation is provided to the organization. The next proclamation is to recognize June as Seniors Month. I will now read the proclamation. Whereas the province of Ontario has designated the month of June as Seniors Month, a time to celebrate and recognize the contributions and importance of older adults this year under the theme Fit, Active, and Healthy Seniors. And whereas during the month of June, communities and municipal partners throughout the province are offering a variety of free or affordable activities, such as exercise programs, educational sessions, and social events aimed at supporting healthy living, meaningful connections, and continued learning at every stage of life. And whereas here in Lincoln, the town, the Active Community and Age-Friendly Advisory Committee, and the Lincoln Seniors Club, along with local businesses and other community partners, are working together to reaffirm a collective commitment to supporting, honoring, and recognizing seniors, including hosting a seniors showcase on June 3rd. Now therefore, I, Sandra Easton, Mayor of the Town of Lincoln, do hereby declare June 2026 as Seniors Month. The next proclamation is to recognize June as Recreation and Parks Month. I will now read the proclamation. Whereas June is recognized as Recreation and Parks Month, JRPM, an initiative that highlights the important role recreation and parks play in supporting physical well-being, social connection, and environmental sustainability. And whereas throughout Ontario, communities participate in JRPM by promoting local programs, events, parks, and facilities that residents of all ages and abilities can access and enjoy. And whereas the Town of Lincoln recognizes that the opportunities to engage in parks and recreation are essential to quality of life, contributing to individual health, community strength, and inclusion. And whereas JRPM serves to celebrate Ontario's outstanding parks and recreation services while increasing public awareness of their vital contribution to personal wellness, community vitality, and environmental health. Now therefore, I, Sandra Easton, Mayor of the Town of Lincoln, do hereby declare June 2026 as Recreation and Parks Month. The clerk will ensure that both proclamations will be provided to the Director of Strategic Initiatives and Community Services. The next proclamation is to recognize June 2026 as Pride Month. I will now read the proclamation. Whereas Pride Month is an opportunity to recognize and celebrate the resilience, contributions, and diversity of 2SL LGBTQ+ communities. And whereas the Town of Lincoln acknowledges the ongoing impact of discrimination and inequality experienced by members of these communities and reaffirms its commitment to fostering a safe, respectful, and inclusive community for all residents, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. And whereas the Town of Lincoln recognizes Pride Niagara's leadership in fostering positive and safer spaces, strengthening social connection, providing information and outreach, and advancing local activism throughout the Niagara region. Whereas the Town of Lincoln recognizes and honors Two-Spirit individuals and acknowledges the cultural, spiritual, and historic significance of Two-Spirit identities within Indigenous communities across the Niagara region. And whereas the Town of Lincoln recognizes the importance of meaningful engagement with the 2SL LGBTQ+ community and is committed to ensuring that municipal actions and support are informed by and responsive to the voices and needs of the communities it serves. And whereas Pride Month serves as both a celebration and a reminder of the continued work needed to advance equity and inclusion within our community, now therefore I, Sandra Easton, Mayor of the Town of Lincoln, do hereby declare June 2026 as Pride Month, and also want to recognize that today with Councillor Pachariva, that we raise the flag at the front of the Town Hall. Madam Clerk will ensure that the proclamation is provided to Pride Niagara. Item number 9 is recognition and achievements, and I want to extend a warm welcome to everyone in attendance this evening as we recognize recipients of the Mayor's Medal in celebration of their outstanding achievements. I want to say to you that there are many, many people in this town that do great work. I think we would all agree. We could all come up with a list of people that are every day engaged in the good of the community. And so it's very, very difficult to make a selection. However, we believe at the town that it is important to recognize many people who do good work for the town. Internally, that begins with our own staff to make sure that they are not put aside because of some of the historical reasons that town staff should not be recognized. And we also believe that in the community, that the people that really go out of their way not only to build their businesses, not building their businesses to satisfy themselves and their legacies, but to build their businesses, to build the community, is really going out of your way. And so we have been recognizing members of the community since February. We will have another meeting in July where there will be another cohort. But tonight, we're going to recognize the craft beverage industry. It is the economic and cultural engine of the Niagara Benchlands. It drives tourism. It supports local agriculture. It fuels regional employment and establishing the area as a premier internationally recognized culinary destination. And the industry's importance is defined by several key pillars. World-class viticulture, home to well over 50 boutique wineries. The Benchlands utilizes the Niagara Escarpment's limestone-rich soil and unique microclimates to produce award-winning cool climate vintages. Diverse craft beverage scene. Beyond wine, the region features a growing complement of artisanal craft breweries, cideries, and craft distilleries, fueling a vibrant cocktail and tasting culture. Economic and tourism catalyst. The beverage sector draws thousands of visitors annually, supporting hundreds of local businesses, including restaurants, accommodations, and farm-to-table culinary experiences. Agricultural preservation. By demanding high-quality grapes and local fruits, the beverage industry ensures the preservation of the Benchlands as a prime agricultural and tender fruit growing powerhouse. Tonight, we also recognize Tonight we recognize another cohort of industry leaders, many of whom have received accolades both nationally and internationally for their wine offerings. We're always hearing at certain times of the year when there are competitions about who has won the most recent gold medals, and then pretty soon you'll see a fabulous new sign go up in front of the building saying that they are the #1 winery in a certain category. Or maybe it's a cidery, or maybe it's the most recent gin that's been developed. And of course, we always feel great pride in all of this, and we know that other people in the community do as well. So let me begin with Maury Tawes. Maury Tawes founded Tawes Winery in 2011, and the story is rooted in a commitment to crafting exceptional wines. Maury is a visionary in the world of winemaking whose passion for quality and sustainability has shaped the landscape of the area's wine industry. Beyond Canada, his dedication to viticulture extends to vineyard holdings in France, and they are proud to have their vineyard manager as the current Grape King. And she's from Lincoln. So, Maury, I'm very pleased to recognize you this evening.
2001.
Beg your pardon?
Started in 2001.
I can't tell
25
you.
years. 2001.
Oh, 2001. We'll correct that. I knew that Taw's Winery was going to be a hot item. The first time I went in to buy wine, and the bottle was wrapped in tissue paper and had a special seal on it. And at that time, that was absolutely the most unusual thing to do. Usually it came in a beautiful bag, in a box if you were buying more than a half a dozen bottles. But tissue paper, I thought that would have a very, very fine touch to it.
America had lots of money.
I'm sure. John Howard, where's John? There he is. John Howard of Megalomaniac started the winery as a retirement project, if you can imagine. He obviously didn't know how much work it was going to be. He runs this venture, now his daughter runs this venture, with a passion to create the finest wines in the area and offers food in the restaurant through a partnership with local company Reveille. Bordeaux runs through his veins, and he is a partner with a French family who operate 4 wine estates in Bordeaux. The winery is famous for its cheeky, tongue-in-cheek labels. We always know where we are when we're up on Cherry Avenue. Sue-Ann Staff. Sue-Ann is a 5th-generation grape grower, and currently she is proprietor winemaker of Sue-Ann Staff Estate Winery, which opened in 2009. Is that correct? Okay. Based on the family's 200-year-old estate in Jordan, producing high-quality VQA wines from grapes grown on the property. Winemaking has been a lifelong ambition, stemming from a family background in viticulture in the heart of Niagara Peninsula, including 2 Grape King titles for grandfather and father. London Born. London Born is a family-owned business with a British theme and owned and run by David and Annette Hoare with the help of their children. Originally known as Aura Winery, it was renamed and reborn in 2018. Is that date correct? Thank you, to reflect the origins of the family. Their wines are creatively named after London boroughs, and the back of each bottle features stories of the family's youth in those areas. They produce small batch estate-grown wines on an eco-friendly property. Westcott Winery, owned by Grant Westcott and Carolyn Hurst, is another example of a boutique winery offering small lot wines. After growing grapes for other wineries, they started creating wines under their own name in 2012. Is that date correct? Don't any mistakes. Very good. Set in a restored heritage barn, they built a winery from a reclaimed 200-year-old timber frame barn, opening their tasting room in 2014. Over time, they have built a team of passionate and dedicated staff. And one of the first impressions that I had of Westcott Winery was the wine that they had that was named, I think it's Delphine. Yes, one of my favorite aunts. Great name for a wine. Harold Teal, there's Harold. Harold always had a dream of owning a premium quality artisanal winery. And in 2003, that dream came true with the family founding Hidden Bench Winery. Harold is a hands-on, fully active part of day-to-day operations, as well as a strong believer in giving back. As a passionate foodie and wine consumer, he is also one of the founders of Upper Canada Cheese Company and the International Cool Climate Chardonnay Festival. Officially recognized at a prior gala, he is finally receiving his award this evening. Thanks for coming, Harold. In terms of craft beer, Brunch Brewing was considered one of the most ambitious projects undertaken in Ontario and has received numerous accolades. And I would say at the time, Matt, that it was the most energetic and ambitious project in Lincoln. It really kept us hopping for a number of months. The company name is derived from the notable wine-oriented Beamsville Bench. Matt has infused Lincoln's heritage and culture into the beer by working closely with local council, wineries, orchards, and historians to truly capture the essence of the town. Over the years, the town of Lincoln has received we'll move on here, okay. All right, now, this next section, this is a diversion. Now, we have two awards that are not food and beverage, but my comments, the comments that I made earlier still hold. You can hire people to do work, and you can pay them, and everybody will say, well, we paid them, they did the work, we paid them for it, so that's it. And that's fine, and that's true. But I think if you're really paying attention to the quality of the work that's coming your way, you want to make an evaluation on the quality that you're receiving. It's not just about writing a check. So, in this next case, it is about writing a check. In the next case after that, I'll tell you what the relationship is. So over the years, the town of Lincoln has received legal advice from two key representatives of Aird Burles. Yes, they are a Toronto firm. Yes, they are a big company. Yes, we do write a check every time they come and see us. But when they come to see us, the quality of the advice, the consistency in the advice is what we really care about. And when we go to an OLT hearing, we want to know that we have the very best at the table, and we want to know that we are going to win, and win we have. And then, in the case of the second partner here, sometimes there are difficult human resources issues that you have to deal with. And you also don't want to pay more than you absolutely should to settle these things. So once again, we're recognizing not that they show up, but that they do the kind of high-quality work that we expect. So we're grateful for Tom Helinski. He is the co-leader of the Municipal Land Use Planning and Development Group at Aird Burles. He's a trusted strategic advisor on many land use planning and development files here at the town. And his partner at the firm is Lorenzo Lisi, and Lorenzo is co-leader of the firm's workplace law group and provides advice in the area of labor and employment law. Both Tom and Lorenzo are talented individuals that have made a real difference for the town in some pretty important cases. They have provided staff with many years of support, council and staff with many years of support as we've navigated many changes to municipal and provincial legislation. And finally, I want to recognize Mark Vanderveen. Now, Mark Vanderveen does not have a restaurant, and he doesn't sell beer, and he doesn't sell wine, and he doesn't sell gin. But he is involved with a company that sells apples. But we've also had a relationship with Mark that really has been very special. And we felt that because of the longevity of that relationship, and because of the way in which the Moyer Apple product and Court Holdings are representing Lincoln on a much grander scale across the world as part of their history, that we wanted to recognize you because as an individual, Mark really had an excellent relationship with the staff here. So in 2007, Mark Vanderveen joined Court Holdings Manufacturing as president and chairman, capitalizing on his depth of enterprise leadership and operational management, and has been a close partner of the town on a number of legacy projects. He has a talent for growing companies nationally and internationally while incubating startup technology companies, such as in 2012 with CleanWorks. And you might have heard about this fabulous technique that is used to kill mold, particularly mold that seems to cling to grapevines. So there was some pretty interesting, there was a very interesting launch of this technology, but it has a very long-term impact for the agricultural industry. This was a joint venture with Moyer's Apple Products and Court Holdings, and developing win-win partnerships worthwhile. And I'm very pleased that that partnership was formed and that it stuck, because the Moyers The mayors, as we call them, Mayers, were one of the original Pennsylvania German families that arrived in this area. And so Paul Moyer's grandfather was the first farmer of that family. So those are the people that we are honoring tonight. And so now Andrea is going to give me some assistance, and we'll call you up. I'll take my list with me. And then we're going to take a group picture and probably some individual pictures with Tom and Lorenzo and with Mark. So. Thank you very much, everyone. It's a real pleasure for council to have you come before us and to be able to speak about your great works and your contributions to the community. Item 10.1 is delegations and presentations. And Councillor Foster, you don't have to leave right away. I'm going to just switch the agenda a bit. I'm going to have Diane and I'm going to.
That's outrageous. Should we let them meet?
Just a moment. Would you want to do now?
Oh, no, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Actually, we had talked about doing a group photo, so I think we'll continue to do that. We've done that in the past, so we'll do that again. So everybody come up over into this area here, and the clerk or someone will organize us.
Pause for a quick break.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Tony's out.
Yeah, we'll have all of council as well. Yeah, we'll just take a break, council. Madam Clerk, yeah. The next item on the agenda is item 10.2. And we've just made a change. This is item 10.2, and Councillor Foster is going to provide his report after this. This is Diana Moriali, the Director of Infrastructure Planning and Development, and Jill Stephen, Associate Director of Infrastructure Planning from the Niagara Region, and they are here this evening to provide an update presentation regarding Niagara Transportation Plan 2051. This report was a big hit the night that it was, or the day that it was presented at the region, and the new approach, Diane, is quite, it's unique, and it certainly was very well received by council. So please go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Easton and members of Lincoln Council. I do have to apologize to Councillor Bernay. He's kind of heard this presentation a couple times because he does sit on the Transportation Steering Committee at the region. Again, we wanted to thank you for the opportunity to present tonight at Council, and we were glad tonight that we were able to hear all the awards. As a resident of Niagara, I have been to all those places, so I'm quite happy that they won, and they're currently continuing to do great work in the town of Lincoln. So as mentioned by Mayor Easton, we're currently visiting all 12 municipalities, and Lincoln is our fourth presentation on our Transportation Master Plan Roadshow. So as mentioned, our presentation is really geared to the Transportation Master Plan, and Jill will provide a fulsome overview of the project on the upcoming slides. Again, today's presentation is really twofold. It's really to introduce the project to Council and the scope, as well as outline the engagement plan. And then it's also to seek your input on the future transportation needs that best support your residents, employers, and visitors to 2051. I would also like to note that the CAOs across Niagara Region are also doing a governance and service delivery review for the region. And we've had many questions in regards to that and how, and the reasons as to why we're doing the Transportation Master Plan. And I wanted to say to every council that we attend, no matter what the governance or service delivery review looks like in the future, the work that the Regional Transportation Master Plan remains important and necessary for us to do, because it will help identify and define the transportation network that connects Niagara's communities to one another and the broader region beyond Niagara. This is also really important work because it's critical to understand what investments we need and improvements are needed to support trade, tourism, economic development, and the daily mobility needs of our residents, employees, and businesses across Niagara to 2051. So now I'll turn it over to Jill for more of a fulsome review.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to start with the regional road network because the network really plays a huge role in how people and goods move every day in Niagara. As Diana mentioned, it connects people to destinations, it connects communities, and it links the region to other municipalities and markets in Ontario and beyond through its connections to the provincial highway network and to rail, marine, air, and border crossings. But the regional road network is only one part of the picture. The 2051 Transportation Plan will focus on the regional network, but the plan also needs to support that network's role in the broader transportation system across the local, regional, provincial, and federal levels. Each level plays a different role in how people and goods move. Generally speaking, because there are always exceptions, the local networks enable the neighborhood and daily trips and travel needs, those trips to schools, to parks, shops and services, and they feed into the regional network. And there are often the two-lane streets with the lower speed limits, sidewalks, cycling connections, and on-street parking. The regional network focuses on connecting communities. It includes the main corridors that support goods movement, regional vehicle and transit and active transportation travel, and mobility across Niagara. Typically, regional roads are the higher volume arterials and include space for transit and cycling along key regional corridors. The provincial network enables longer distance travel. Highways like the QEW and 406, along with GO Transit, move people and goods between Niagara and the rest of Ontario. And then the federal network, which is about national and international movement. The Welland Canal, our border crossings, airports, and freight rail all shape Niagara's role in trade and tourism. And as we develop the Transportation Master Plan, our focus for projects is that regional network, but while we stay closely connected to what is happening across the rest of the networks. Niagara Region's first Transportation Master Plan was completed in 2017, so it is time for a new plan. That previous plan looked at our growth needs for transportation to 2041, and this plan has a horizon of 2051, hence the name Niagara Transportation Plan 2051. The Transportation Master Plan provides the direction and the first level analysis of our long-term transportation needs as we grow. It shows how projects fit together across the network by identifying where new infrastructure is required to support growth and confirming how different elements of the system work together as a whole. The TMP ensures good planning by confirming that growth projects make sense for the regional network and by giving us the evidence that we need to advocate for provincial and federal investments and to include projects in the development charges background study and bylaw. It's important that we do transportation planning at multiple levels to reflect the different networks and responsibilities. But the plans, like the physical networks, also need to be connected. At a high level, both local and regional plans identify infrastructure and projects to support different types of trips by different modes as communities grow. But local transportation plans, like the Lincoln TMP, often have a greater emphasis on supporting the trips within the community, on placemaking, walking, cycling, and parking. And the Niagara Transportation Plan will focus on the intra-regional trips and the broader networks to support driving, transit, goods movement, and cycling on the arterial roads. The Lincoln Transportation Master Plan and the other transportation master plans of the other local municipalities will be important inputs into the Niagara Transportation Plan. We're still at the early stages of our study, and our vision statement will evolve based on the feedback we received during this first phase consultation, and then we'll finalize that as we move out of the preliminary stages of the study and into the options and recommendations stage. The vision is important because it frames all of the work ahead and guides how we will assess the needs and evaluate the transportation options throughout the transportation plan. Spoke earlier about the connections between local and regional transportation plans, and drawing on the vision and opportunity statements from plans such as the Lincoln TMP helps to bring the local context into the work on our plan. There are elements of the opportunity statement that are the same as the draft vision statement I just showed, and elements that are specific to each plan. And these vision and opportunity statements don't need to be identical, but the plans need to be built on an understanding of the common needs and on the unique elements of community character and priorities. Where a recommended project, plan, or program might lie, whether it's in the local plan or in the Niagara Transportation Plan, depends on the type, the scale, and the location of the project, and our respective roles in supporting mobility and transportation. So, we are currently in phase one of the transportation plan, and we have a three-phase approach. Phase one, in this phase, we're currently identifying the problems and opportunities, reviewing how the transportation system is performing, and confirming the vision and goals that will guide the rest of the study. This phase will wrap up in the next couple of months, and then phase two work begins this summer. At each phase and throughout the project, there'll be ongoing engagement with the public, the local municipalities, through your staff teams, with agencies, other interested parties, and regional council. And the transportation plan will be completed at the end of 2027. So right now in phase one, we're reviewing the road and transit, walking, cycling, and freight conditions. We're developing and updating our travel demand model to assess the system performance. We're completing a policy and jurisdictional review to align our plan with the most current policy and best practices, and preparing for our first round of public consultation, which begins next week. As we move into phase 2A later this summer, we'll develop and evaluate different network alternatives for roads, transit, active transportation, and goods movement. The development of the network alternatives will also build on the studies and projects that have been previously identified in other plans. Phase 2B then identifies the preferred network and develops the implementation strategy, including recommendations for the 10-year capital program. And as part of that work, there'll be a number of supporting deliverables, such as a prioritization framework and road rationalization framework that will be included in the final report. The engagement program for the 2051 Transportation Plan includes a variety of approaches at different stages of the project. Our project email and webpage are now active, and we will engage with the public, municipal staff, and other interested parties through public information centers, meetings, presentations, online questionnaires, and surveys. And we'll be presenting to Transportation Strategy Steering Committee and Public Works Committee at key milestones in the project. As I mentioned, we're still early stages with the project and are beginning our formal public consultation next week. So the themes on this slide reflect the comments that we've heard from presentations to Transportation Strategy Steering Committee, Public Works Committee, and at a council workshop that was held in March. Some of the common themes between those three forums included the importance of coordinating with provincial agencies and other partners, ensuring that businesses were engaged in the consultation and the project, and an increasing direct engagement overall, strengthening goods movement and active transportation planning, and exploring new mobility options. As Diana mentioned, this is our fourth presentation, and so far we are also hearing some common themes from the presentations to local councils, and particularly connecting with the themes of transit and coordinating partners around travel to appointments and to the hospitals within the Niagara Health System. We'll continue to track these comments and themes as we move throughout the plan, and what we hear at this phase 1 stage will be used to update and confirm that draft vision statement ahead of moving to phase 2. So our next steps in the project over the next few months will continue with these presentations. We will be presenting through the months of June and July to meet all 12 councils. Our first public information centers will be held next week on June 9th and 10th. Those sessions are at the Seymour Hanna Sports and Entertainment Center on June 9th and the Welland Community Center on June 10th, but we welcome and encourage all residents of all of Niagara Region to attend or participate, or to visit the website to see the information there. And as I mentioned, throughout the project, engagement and consultation will be key components of our work. And with that, I'd like to say thank you again for the opportunity to present to you this evening. We'd be happy to take any questions that you might have for us regarding the plan.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. And we'll see if there's any questions at all from council. Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the presenters. I'm just reflecting on slide 13, some of the comments you've heard so far. Has nobody brought up any concerns about debt management with these projects coming up, or any policies to coordinate how these are going to be costed out and paid for, to ensure that they're minimized? Through
you, Mayor Easton. So far, we have heard some preliminary questions and comments about, why are we doing this project now? We already have a master plan. As I said, it's 10 years old. But we really, we will be looking at the cost of the projects and what should be implemented on what time frame. That's where the prioritization framework comes into play. So far, that hasn't been a common theme that we've heard, but as we are haven't yet been to the public, we may hear those comments when we start with that phase of the engagement plan.
Okay, and just a quick follow-up, Madam Mayor. So from the 2017 plan till now, those projects have been implemented. Do you know how much of them have been put onto the public debt?
Thank you for the question. Well, we don't have that answer about how we've been funding it and how much has been on the public debt. That's something that we can take back, as well as we have implemented some of the projects that were in the previous 2017, but it's a longer-term program that was going to 2041. So some of the projects that are within the previous 2017 Transportation Master Plan are still projected and will be reevaluated as part of this program. And then there is a component as part of the program, once we get to a preferred alternative, of how we're going to fund it. Are we funding it through, is it a growth-related project? What is that growth-related rate? Is it 75%, development charges, 25% to the levy? So we'll have that information as we conclude the project.
Okay, and will that information come back to local councils?
Through the mayor, that information will come back to local councils through staff, so we'll make sure it gets provided.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Brunei.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Diana and Jill, for this presentation. Just a couple of questions, kind of feeding off some of the questions that came at Transportation Steering. And they came from a representative from Welland, and I thought they were really good questions, because each segment of Niagara, in many ways, is very, very unique. And West Niagara, as you've heard tonight, we've got wineries going up the escarpment and on the bench, and we have this thing called the Niagara Escarpment Crossing. So I'm wondering, as we move this along, and I realize the first PIC is going to be in St. Catharines and Welland, but the importance of making sure that we have a PIC out here in West Niagara, specifically because of that project. I'm wondering if you could just comment on that.
Yes, through the mayor, we will be having public information centers in different communities in each phase of the project. So we will be trying to spread that the opportunities for people to attend closer to home out throughout the project. Those first two PICs certainly won't be the only ones in the project. And as we start work on the escarpment crossing, we'll ensure that consultation is also in West Niagara, so that people have an opportunity to weigh in and certainly be aware of it. We've been working with Lincoln staff already to talk about how can we ensure that we can work together on getting that word out, so people are aware of the study when it does start, aware of opportunities to participate, and ensure that their views and their comments are heard throughout the project.
That's great. Through you, Madam Mayor, I appreciate that response, Jill. And I know that, our director, Dr. Graham, is here this evening, and I know him and his staff have a great relationship with all of you at the region, and I know there's great collaboration because, as we've heard at the steering committee, there's no one knows our communities better than our staff. And so as long as there's that collaboration. So with that in mind, through you, Madam Mayor, second question, some of the things that we heard, again, active transportation connections, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a major road, which is a regional road, Mountain Street, that comes down into our downtown core. And we have, vehicles coming from the quarries coming down, and we have been thinking for some time that we need to do a truck route. But there has been discussions that possibly at some point that Mountain Street be transferred from the region to the town of Lincoln. And we also heard this, at the Transportation Steering Committee from other municipalities. So I'm wondering if you could speak to opportunities that can be put on the table as we move forward with this process.
Through the mayor, I think there are two opportunities that I'd like to highlight for that discussion. One is the Transportation Master Plan itself. In the scope of the Transportation Master Plan, we have a review of it was 2009 Transportation Sustainability Study, which really looked at the criteria for roads being regional roads or being local roads, and included a review of a number of the arterials at that time to see, where they best fit based on the role they were playing in the transportation network. One of the deliverables of this project is to look at those criteria again, see if they're still valid, and then do a review of some of the arterial roads against those new criteria again to see are they sitting in the right place? Are they serving a regional transportation function? Are they serving more of a local function? So that's one opportunity. The other opportunity, I think, is through the escarpment crossing study itself. When that gets started, and when we know where the route is going to be finally, and we have that nailed down, then that gives us an opportunity to look at how the rest of the network is working around it, and is that a time where we can make a decision on Mountain?
That's great, thank you. Madam Mayor, third and final question. So, thank you for that response, very fulsome. So we have heard at the steering committee, the requirement to continue to have collaboration with, other municipalities, whether it's Burlington, whether it's Kitchener-Waterloo, whether it's, Burlington, Oakville, and the GTA, because, we have all this traffic coming in. So I'm just wondering, we have this project that is just getting launched to twin the Garden City Skyway, which is wonderful, but we have a tremendous backlog when traffic is heading towards Niagara at Centennial Parkway. So what does the process look like where, Amy and WSP and everyone will be involved to ensure that the province really understands that it's great that we're getting this investment for the Skyway, but we have a bigger problem out here. It's the congestion on the Queenie anytime between May and October. So I'm wondering if you could speak to that.
Thank you for the question. Through the mayor, living in Niagara, I do see the weekend traffic and how queued up it gets on the QEW, and not even just the QEW. I like to call it Highway 8, but King Street, Main Street, all the way to Niagara Falls. That back route does get pretty clogged. We do have a partnership with the Ministry of Transportation, so we do meet with them, I would say maybe every quarter, with the MTO liaison group, and we are meeting with them in the near future, I think sometime this week or next week. And the NGTA is one of those components that we have, to talk about. We're also going to be talking about the expansion that's going to be happening on the QEW. They have said that they're going to initiate that environmental assessment, because that's important. We need to have these improvements to the QEW. We also need to have the improvements in South Niagara and how they were going to connect to the border, towards Hamilton and the Toronto area as well. In 2017, the Transportation Master Plan, there were some key projects that came out of it, and part of those projects were, working in partnership with, federal agencies and provincial agencies advocating for GO Transit, and it was also advocating for the Mid-Peninsula or the Niagara or the NGTA corridor. That advocacy has seemed to fall off from other municipalities, but I think that's something that the new Transportation Master Plan is going to be looking at, and having those conversations with MTO to see, where that project lies within their plan and what work that they're going to be doing on that, because that's important for Niagara. We need to deal with different types of traffic, so we need to deal with the residential traffic. We also need to make sure that we're moving goods movement across Niagara, because we are attracting industry towards Niagara, and it's important that we have, when the QEW shuts down, which seems to be last week, there was always an accident in the morning. Where's that traffic going? And you don't want to go through your community. So, we are going to be having those conversations and trying to see how we can advocate with the province on that.
That's terrific. Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation, and good luck with your traveling roadshow.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes. Thanks, Diane and Jill, for the presentation. Just a couple of questions going kind of down the route of Councillor Bernay on that bigger look, the provincial look, right? GO Transit. Seems every weekend the Lakeshore West Line is shut down for track maintenance. So you're forced to take a GO bus, which is no faster than driving in your own vehicle. And like last weekend, the planned shutdown of 2 lanes on the Skyway, the Burlington Skyway, when commuters are coming down to Niagara on the weekends, it would make a heck of a lot more sense for that work to be done from midnight to 6 a.m. rather than during the day. Like, is there a mechanism in this Transportation Master Plan for some liaisoning to say, okay, like, these are untouchable dates, like, you need to give us some help here. Like, we're talking about a skywheel in Niagara Falls. Well, if you can't get to it, it's not much good, right? So just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Through the mayor, through the Transportation Master Plan, we will be meeting with the Ministry of Transportation on their Destination Niagara plan, as well as their plans for other projects, to understand what those are, what sort of timelines they're looking at, what sort of projections they have for increased travel and so on. And then the model for the Transportation Master Plan does include a tourism component to it. Oftentimes with a Transportation Master Plan model, you're looking at the peak morning and peak afternoon on a weekday. But our plan has to reflect conditions in Niagara, and tourism is a big part of that. So we will be looking at that as well. One of the other things we're doing with the model is to look at a base scenario based on, well, what's in place now in terms of our network, and what would happen if we grew as we're planning to grow, but the network essentially stayed the same or only incorporated the projects that we know that are going to go ahead. And then we build the scenarios to build in the the tourism components and the widening of the QEW and, a dedicated cycling network or a connected cycling network and, Niagara Transit's 10-year plan and so on. And how does that change? And then we can go back and say, well, without those things, these are the negative impacts on our network. We have to grow. We know these people are coming to live and work here, and we know these people are coming to visit here. So we need support to build these other projects that are, outside of a local or a regional responsibility, and we can help to use this as part of that advocacy.
Okay, that's, Jill, that's terrific. Like, that's where I was going to go, was that the Transportation Master Plan then will be a linchpin to go to these upper levels of government to say, we need funding to do this. We need, I sit on the Niagara Regional Transit Commission, right? And the 10-year master plan is dynamic, right? It's there's going to be a route coming down King Street. We've got the, working with HSR, a connection at Winona Crossing, to get to the point where maybe everyone's running on a Presto card, right? Where it's get on in Beamsville and get to Union Station, right? And then go everywhere. So that's encouraging to hear. And hopefully it's not that far off, right? So keep up the good work. And I look forward to seeing this. Thank you. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I'd just like to draw to Council's attention, I don't think it's been lost on you at all, that talking about transit and talking about a transportation master plan in the way that we have been has been really quite a disconnected process. And so when I first heard the presentation, a lot of light bulbs went on. So I realized that we were finally going to have an opportunity to look at the whole system. And so I think this does it, although I do think that Councillor Russell's comment about working the finances into that a little earlier than it appears that we're at right now, because we should have some idea of what it does mean. But not doing it, it would also be very valuable to know what doing nothing would have to say about the development of our economy. The second comment that I would like to make is it should also not be lost on us that both representatives from the region here tonight are part of the planning department. This is a planning department that apparently doesn't exist anymore. And so it's very, very important for us to understand and for the public to understand that without this project being taken on by people who look at the entire planning system and where you are putting business and where you're putting houses, where the density is, where your traffic hubs are, et cetera, that you will really have a continued disconnection within the system. So I want to thank you both for coming out, because I think that is also an important component of what you're presenting to us. And this is going to be a very, very important component, I think, over the next 10 years at least. Thank you so much. I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachiriva, seconded by Councillor Russell. The council receive and file for information the following delegation regarding Niagara Transportation Plan 2051. Diana Morelli, Director, Infrastructure Planning and Development, and Jill Stephen, Associate Director, Infrastructure Planning, Niagara Region. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
And the vote is now open. And I will close that vote, and that carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And we're going to go back one now to item 10.1. Thank you very much, Councillor Foster. Councillor Foster, Regional Councillor Foster is here tonight to provide us with an update, and he circulated his report as well as a second piece, which is an item of correspondence, which is the economic development update from the Economic Development Department. Go ahead with your report, Councillor.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And they were mentioning, Councillor Bernay has been through this a few times. Both Mayor Easton and I sit on the Public Works Committee at the region and have been through this, and we're incredibly happy where the region is going to with this particular overall plan. I found one of the earlier questions on debt interesting. Just to let you know, the region is running at 6.2 on the ARL statement at the region, which essentially means that the debt level for the region itself right now is fairly low. One of the things that the region also does is it combines the debt of all the lower tier municipalities when it comes to actually doing these things. And we've maintained a AA plus rating, which is incredibly good within this whole debt financing area. And for those of you that are going to be actively involved going into the next term of council in some form or another, one of the biggest debt areas that we're going to be looking at is the Niagara Falls wastewater treatment plant that's coming into play. That is going to be the single most expensive piece of infrastructure that has ever been done in Niagara region, at least in today's dollars. I suppose if we go back and try and compare it against $1911 when they built some of these original wastewater treatment plants, it would be fascinating to see how some of these things come out. On my notes for you tonight, I just went through some of the things that we went through last month within our various committees, and some of these have direct effect, again, on the town of Lincoln. So the funding for the combined sewer overflow, the CSO program, was reconfirmed once again. If you remember correctly, about 2 years ago, there was a request from staff to start removing funding from that particular area. And the battle was from here and from the councillors as well, basically saying, no, this has to continue. And the reason is that, you know, the long-term needs of our wastewater treatment need to be well thought through. So, you know, the various pieces that are being looked at, where water that's coming into the system shouldn't be there, et cetera. And all of the long-term rework of our sewer systems, whether they be for the natural runoff versus wastewater, all of that stuff is really important to that. We talked about the Blue Box program, and I remembered back a few months ago we had quite a lively discussion here about Blue Box and some of the things going on within that area. Just to let you know that that we'll be requesting through the region, one of our meetings will be hopefully talking about the non-eligible sources that are coming into play. This is the big issue that's going on with Blue Box now in the province. And just to remind you, the picking up at the doorway isn't a problem for our residential. The problem is that they're not picking up from the industrial, from the restaurants, from other areas that it should really be picked up. from Town of Lincoln facilities, okay? Like that's not on the list of things that should be picked up. So anyway, that's come into play. I asked a question of our staff. If any of us have noticed, it's been a bit of a wet spring. And we've had some incredible downpours. Back of my place over towards you, Adam, the back area of my neighborhood flooded twice in the last month, okay? It ran away. I mean, like, you know, the system is designed very well to go and remove the waters. That was what it was originally designed to do. But I hadn't seen that in 30 years. So bottom line is that, you know, I was asking, like, has this affected our wastewater treatment plants? Have we seen abnormal discharges that are coming into play? This is one area that Regional Council has been kind of all over staff at the region to make sure that we know. We don't want to get any surprises coming from the Minister of the Environment or whatever the case may be. Anyway, long story short, everything seems to have been running quite well. There has been no abnormal discharging that's gone on from any of the wastewater treatment plants. I will bring back more information on that if we see any change in that. So, but it's a good thing. Public Health Committee took a position, and Sandra and I talked about this briefly as it's going on. The Bill S-220, the federal one, involves an alcohol labeling policy, a policy position paper that's being put forward, and I happen to think that our winery industry, as well as others, need to take a real close look at what's happening with this. I happen to think, as opposed to other products, let's refer to them as maybe cigarettes, where there is absolutely no value whatsoever that comes into play, I think there's some arguments that are saying some of these other products, there are some values to them. So let's be really careful as we're going down the road. Anyway, keep your eye on this over the next number of months. I expect there's going to be more discussions going on with this. So the NPCA. So as you guys know, I'm chair of the NPCA again, and I am currently the board representative on the transition team that's going on for the western Niagara areas. So Leilani Lee Yates, you've had her in here a few times. Our CAO and myself are on that particular committee. And there's lots going on. All of the legislation is in place. It's baked. It's not going away. We had put in recommendations that perhaps there's some things about Niagara that really need to be taken into account. The fact that we have two major waterways on either side of us that are kind of important. You know, you were discussing earlier the Great Lakes initiatives that are going into play. NPCA is big time involved with this as we're going through. The other waterways that we're dealing with are coming into play. And one of the things that hadn't really been talked about is the fact that we have unionized employees as opposed to conservation areas across Ontario typically don't. So there's a lot of things that are coming into play, and a lot of moving parts are going to happen over the next little while. And keep that presentation that Leilani gave to you guys back a while ago handy, because we are by far the most efficient when it comes to cost performance for what it is that we're actually doing. JD and I were, as he was mentioning golfing, we also had the pleasure of having Adam Christie, who's the director of the campgrounds areas and all of the various pieces of the puzzle within the NPCA, and we had a good opportunity to talk to him about that. You know, the fact that they have been able to turn some of the areas into significant revenue generators within it. The other areas don't do that type of stuff. Credit Valley takes a load of money out of both Brampton and Mississauga, and they take very little money out of the community. Good, bad, or indifferent? I don't know, but at least the NPCA has looked to, making sure that revenue sources were coming into play, separate and aside from government funding. We also, at Corporate Services, we are sending a request from the region to the Attorney General of Ontario. Fine limits, and honestly, I can't remember the exact date, but the fine limits for provincial offenses haven't been changed in like a gazillion years type of thing. They are sadly out of date within the areas, and part of the problem is, of course, is that this came through the court services, is the fact that you need to have some level of revenue that's coming back in and through to even have these things work. So anyway, there's a request going basically saying, take a look at this, guys. It's long overdue. And the planning side, and so I also kind of liked Mayor Easton's comment earlier. Planning doesn't exist, but it still exists in some ways at the region. It's changed a bit. The two lovely ladies that were here earlier really are doing a major planning piece of the puzzle for Niagara region. They happen to be situated within the public works area, but that happens to be where this is going. But I provided for you the report from Blake Landry. We get this on a quarterly basis at Niagara region. He gives the review of where things are at. So. And the thing, I took the one sentence out of it for you. So Niagara's economic indicators through 2025 and into 2026 reflect a region experienced stable growth amid external pressures. So maybe that's not all that surprising, but at least, there's some positive signs on some of the numbers that are being looked at. So, and with that, Mayor Easton, that is my report for this evening.
Thank you very much, Councillor, very much appreciated. And let me just add, it's always interesting how you hear a report, and so it's true that Councillor Foster and I didn't vote the same on the issue of the labeling. And so I feel that I have to give you a little bit more information.
Actually, we did vote the same way.
Oh, did we vote the same?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It was funny because I sent a note over to Mayor Easton saying, do you think the winery guys might have some questions about this? And she more or less told me
it's
maybe,
like cigarettes.
So, yeah.
So at the last public health meeting, one of the statistics that was presented to us by public health was that there is an increase in alcoholism in Niagara, which isn't too surprising, I suppose, when you consider the amount of alcohol and in wine and spirits that's available now. But you wouldn't want to hold that up as the only statistic, because there's a lot of reasons why people imbibe. But the other thing that we need to keep in mind is that public health really does need to operate independent so that they can make the best decisions for communities. So we'll give them that, because I think that's, fundamental to their mandate as well. But it wasn't really a very lengthy discussion, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of different layers that are going to touch their, whose fingers are going to touch that one in particular.
May I suggest too is that you're quite right. I think it's a nuanced argument, and I think I put it in here just basically showing that there's discussions going on at the federal level. So keep your eyes open. Particularly those that are active within the winery industry. So,
all right. Any questions for the councillor? Councillor Reimer.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. Thanks, Rob, again for your report this evening. The always popular sanitary sewage overflow issue. Do you know? And I say this because of the I'll say pretty successful program that our Public Works has done on infiltration inflow in our town. How detailed will they get with their sampling, I guess, as far as flows? Like, as far as here, we have a total overview of overflow locations, but as far as, is there anything being done as where where there's large areas of inflow as opposed to little areas? Like, do you any idea how detailed that is going? Because you just mentioned, it's the key to the cost of that, that sexy sewage wastewater plant that's going to go in. When you can start, taking a look on a smaller scale, Town of Lincoln, and we basically, I think, Director Graham, correct me if I'm wrong, but we basically fixed an issue that we can now use an existing system instead of upgrading it because we we fixed a lot of inflow issues. And I know that's in some of the older parts of the municipality, of the Niagara municipality, it's a big issue. So I don't know, do you know how detailed that is or what in depth they're going with that?
There's two things that I want to answer to that. One, the region knows exactly how much it's getting from each municipality. The question is where it's actually entering and coming into the system. And so I would suggest that Dave would probably be better to talk about this as to how all of this is collected within the town of Lincoln as it's getting to those exit points, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But no, it's all measured. So they know what's going in and through the system from each municipality. Anyway, we've been incredibly successful for a long time here in the town of Lincoln on making the fixes to our systems that we need to make. And I mean, this goes back, back to the Ray days almost. Mr. Conkle, sorry. But we had.
I wasn't sure which Ray you're referring to.
Yeah,
Councillor.
Yes, the Ray. Anyway, but this has gone on for a long time within the municipality making these fixes, and sometimes we're the authors of our own, trouble as it's going on because our systems have become very, very good. I mean, I think Dave could stand up at any one of the meetings with municipalities and say, hey, look, the Lincoln systems are really good. But the problem with it then is that we're having less flow that's going on with everything. Our water pipes aren't broken all over the place and adding extra flow. Our waste management stuff is less as it's going on. And suddenly we're not hitting the flow levels that we had expected, and then it looks like there's big increases that are coming into play. So I don't know. It's a strange scenario that goes on with some of these things, and how they actually do a lot of the calculations. And just the other thing I wanted to say, Councillor Patcher-Even will remember this. Remember the Barolina lining that was talked about years ago? We had so much fun with that. I think we actually made songs of it at our council at the time. But they were discussing all of these wonderful new ways of going through and doing a lining to make sure that these systems are tight and making sure that they're going to work well into the future. And I'm just amazed at the technology that comes into play, both at the region and the town. I mean, we're getting extension of life on some things that probably was never heard of before, which is really good. So,
one follow-up, if I may, Mayor Easton, just with regards to that, Rob, do you know if they're using any of this data and hopefully forecasting a decrease in inflow and infiltration as far as sizing and what capacity that the new wastewater treatment plant will have along the exact lines that you said? Is it able to deregulate itself down to lower, and is also able to compartmentalize up to have expansion? Or is it going to be a sort of a 2030, I'm just throwing that year out there, but a 2030 year fix kind of thing? Do you know how advanced they're looking at those kind of things?
So that's an incredibly good question. Thank you. We have been asking the same questions at the region about this as well, because they're in detailed design of the new plant at this point in time, okay? And the thing is essentially being built on a modular basis. So in other words, they're looking at a certain capacity that's going to be going on in the first place. But then there's going to be the ability to go and increase that if it's required. But there's not, I can tell you, this is completely required. The city of Thorold is growing astronomically. Niagara-on-the-Lake, they want to build the Glenview subdivision. There's no capacity that's going on for it at this point in time. Niagara Falls wants to expand like crazy. Mayor Easton and I went and nearly fainted being at that wastewater treatment plant back, it was almost 2 years ago now, I guess, or a year and a half. Anyway, I don't think I'm ever going to get that smell off of me ever again. But the reality is that, like, that plant has some fundamental problems with it. We will thank the federal or the provincial government, for providing some funding to start fixing the front end of that particular plant. But there's no way to turn off the waste that's going into that. So there's all sorts of things that are coming into play with these things, and they're big ticket items. I mean, again, whoever is sitting around this horseshoe in another year, like, these things are going to become very important to Lincoln Council as well. We aren't going to have regional councillors there to be going and digging through a lot of these things. So, some of these issues are going to be incredibly important, and, they may have to be discussed back at this council as well. So there's my editorial comment.
Sure.
So.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Mayor Easton.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rob, for your report. And I have no other questions, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Brunet, seconded by Councillor Reimer. The council receive and file for information the following delegation, Regional Council Foster. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
Have a great evening, everyone.
And the vote is now
Thank you.
open. I'll close that vote. That carries.
Thank you. The motion is carried. We move on now to item number 11. As you know, the clerk and I have a look over the correspondence as it's put out every week. And this last week, when we were preparing the agenda, there were 3 items that really highlighted and recognized the exceptional work of the Town of Lincoln staff and our community partners. Dedication and professionalism and commitment to excellence comes to mind. And there, we have received as a town several notable recognitions that reflect the high quality of service that's being provided to our residents and businesses. And while you would have had all of those correspondence to read, the public may or may not have, and so I want to draw them to your attention. Item 1.6 of the Council Information Package that was dated May 1st, 2026, regarding the Town of Lincoln receiving the Budget Presentation Award for the 3rd consecutive year. And item 1.3 of the Council Information Package dated May the 8th, 2026, regarding the Town of Lincoln's Human Resources team being recognized nationally as one of Canada's leading HR teams for 2026. And item 1.14 of the Council Information Package dated May 15th, 2026, regarding recognition received by the Downtown Bench Beamsville BIA from the Ontario Business Improvement Area Association at the 2026 BIA Conference. And although that is certainly independent attention and recognition, we do work very close together, very close with the BIA. So I thank you very much, Madam Clerk, for taking the extra time to review the correspondence with me. And I think it certainly was worthwhile to draw these to public attention. I have a motion moved by Councillor Murray and seconded by Councillor Russell that Council receive and file for information the correspondence regarding the Town of Lincoln receiving the Budget Presentation Award for the 3rd consecutive year, the Town of Lincoln's Human Resources team being recognized as one of Canada's leading HR teams for 2026, and the recognition received by the Downtown Bench Beamsville BIA from the Ontario Business Improvement Area Association at the 2026 BIA Conference. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. The vote's open. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And I'll close that vote, and that carries. Thank you.
All right, the motion is carried. We move on to item 12, which is to approve previous council minutes. We are now considering item 12.1, council minutes of May 4th, 2026. Do members of council have any questions? There being none, I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva, seconded by Councillor Reimer, that council approve the minutes of the following meetings of council minutes of May 4th, 2026. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and that vote is open. And I'll close that vote. That carries.
Thank you. The motion is carried. We move on to item 13, which is recommendations from standing committees, and we're now considering the following. Committee of the Whole minutes of May the 11th, 2026. Do members of council have any questions? I see no questions. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmer, seconded by Councillor Brunet, that council approve the following recommendations from standing committees. Committee of the Whole minutes of May the 11th, 2026. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
Thank you. Vote's open. And I will close that vote. That carries.
That motion is carried. We move on to notice of motion, and we have none this evening. And we have item 15, which is reports of municipal officers. And I have one item that I want to share with council. On, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I attended with Councillor Reimer and CAO Kirkopoulos, the Niagara Home Builders Association. And I accepted a recognition which was given to me. I accepted the recognition on behalf of all of council and the staff because I believe that it represents fully the attitude that the staff have had about dealing with the public, with developers and with property owners, and also with the representatives of the Niagara Home Builders Association, and also recognizes the way in which council has approached development and all of the organizational elements related to the positioning of building, construction, the development and the expansion of small manufacturing. And I'll read this to you because I feel that it is, please accept this as a shared award. And this you will find this in the future in the case of, in the council case that's in the corridor. It was presented to Mayor Sandra Easton in sincere appreciation of your leadership, dedication, and collaboration with the Niagara Home Builders Association. Thank you for your commitment to building a stronger community and for your valued partnership over the years. And the date was May 14th, 2026. So as I said, I accepted this as a shared acknowledgement of the work of council and staff. Thank you very much. Pass it around. The next item on the agenda is, just a moment. I have a motion moved by Councillor Murray and seconded by Councillor Benjamin that council receive and file for information the mayor's report. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
Vote's open. And I'll close that vote. That carries.
Thank you. The motion is carried. We move now on to a motion to consider confidential matters, of which we have none this evening. Item 17 is the approval of bylaws, and we have 3 bylaws for consideration today. Do members have any questions? If you do, identify the number of the bylaw, and we'll deal with it separately. I see no questions. I have a motion moved by Councillor Reimer, seconded by Councillor Brunet, that leave be given to approve the following bylaws. 2026-31, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2025-61, being a bylaw to establish and regulate payment of various fees and charges within the town of Lincoln. Bylaw 2026-32, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2022-44, being a bylaw to regulate the use of municipal parks in the town of Lincoln. Bylaw number 2026-33 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 2017-24 as amended, being a bylaw to establish an administrative penalty system to regulate the stopping, standing, or parking of vehicles in the town of Lincoln. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
The vote's open. I will close that vote, and that carries, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The motion is carried. We move on now to item 18, which is a motion to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Russell, seconded by Councillor Pachariva, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 2026-34, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held Monday, June the 1st, 2026, being read a first, second, and third time, that bylaw number 2026-34 be enacted and passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaw. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
Vote's open. And I will close that vote. That carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The motion is carried. We move on to item 19, which is council remarks. Before we motion to adjourn, do members have any comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 20, which is the motion to adjourn. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Brunet, seconded by Councillor Russell, that council meeting on June the 1st, 2026 be adjourned at 2000 hours. Madam Clerk, please open the vote.
Vote's open. I will close the vote, and that carries. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Thank you, everyone, for this concludes our